No big intro today, just going straight into it. I doubt there's anybody watching this who doesn't know, but in case you don't, yesterday, after 2 weeks of Daniel Levy penny pinching in negotiations with Steve Parish, trying to get the Ebereche Eze deal over the line, yesterday Kai Havertz got a knee injury, or at least it was reported that his knee injury was worse than expected. And Arsenal stepped in at the last minute, found out what the deal was that Tottenham had accepted verbally by Steve Parish and Crystal Palace, and just went in and bid it. And Ebereche Eze has chosen to join Arsenal, our biggest rivals. And this is the most embarrassing of all the most embarrassing transfer moments in Daniel Levy's history as chairman of Tottenham Hotspur. He got involved in, like I said, penny pinching, dick measuring with Steve Parish, where all along the line, if you heard my videos, if you heard me speaking, the thing that I was most scared of, and the thing that all Spurs fans were most scared of, was of Daniel Levy not being proactive enough, of not being strong enough, and just saying, we really want this player, Steve Parish. We're going to give you, £2-3 million over and above what you need so we can get it done now, so that we can not give an opportunity for somebody else to jump in and take him. And he didn't. He refuses to do that, Daniel Levy. He has refused to do it numerous times down the years with numerous players. And we're only talking about a month or two ago, aren't we, when, again, with Morgan Gibbs-White and Mr. Marinakis at Nottingham Forest, Daniel Levy tried to do things in a way that embarrassed them. He tried to pull people's pants down and show that he is the mafioso-style negotiator who gets exactly what he needs and doesn't allow anyone else to feel like they have got the deal that they want. It's all about what he wants. And this time, again, he's had his pants pulled down, Daniel Levy. And it is us as Spurs fans who become the memes. We're the ones who have the piss taken out of us, this time by Arsenal fans, by our biggest rivals, by the people that we can't allow this to happen from. But it has. Yesterday, I did a video on here where I talked about how I didn't think Daniel Levy would be able to get through this if the Ebereche Eze deal didn't come off. I didn't think that he would be able to survive as Tottenham chairman if somehow, after these weeks of negotiations, after what we went through with Morgan Gibbs-White, if he didn't get it over the line. I've been accused yesterday of turning into Brian Daigle, that I'm too negative about Daniel Levy. And it's happened. And I have always, if you listen to my videos or watch my videos for a couple of years now, you will have known that I've always said I'm not Levy in or out, or ENIC in or out, because you just don't know what you're going to get. But the thing that I come back to is Daniel Levy constantly sacks people, managers, sporting directors, Scott Munn recently, endlessly over his 25-year tenure, sacks people for what he deems to be not doing a good enough job. But who is above Daniel Levy? Is it Joe Lewis's kids? Who is it? Who is it who can look him in the eye today and say, oh, Daniel, unlucky, mate, just another one, nothing you could have done. Already there are some leaks coming out of the club. They're like, oh, Tottenham did everything they could to get Ebereche Eze, but it was felt that it was never going to happen. Bollocks. It's bollocks. Because if you slap the money on the table and don't give the other chairman the possibility of turning it down or negotiating, you make it happen now, and you say to the player, it's now or never. Because look, we all knew that over the summer, Ebereche Eze's dream, was to go to Arsenal. We know that, but Arsenal had spent at that point £250 million on 6 other players, right? So at that point, Ebereche Eze must be thinking, oh, how much do they really want me? They've just bought Noni Madueke for £55 million. And that is when Tottenham can go in and say, well, we want you to be our main man. We want you to be, our number 10. James Maddison's injured. Deki Kulusevski is out. We want you to be our creative hub, and make him feel wanted. And Daniel Levy then has to back that up by making their chairman an offer that they cannot refuse. But instead, he gets involved in this 2-week-long battle that embarrasses Tottenham fans, that gets us to a place where actually, even before yesterday, a lot of us were like, oh God, it's tiring. One of the best things about football is that Jurgen Klinsmann feeling, where it comes out of the blue and you're like, wow, you've signed someone that you never knew you were going to sign. And it actually adds excitement to the crowd at the game, not only those people at home. It adds to the momentum of the club. But Levy has no interest in any of that. He's just interested in a few little fucking pennies in the pound here and there. And again, optically, it makes the club look embarrassing. It makes us as fans look embarrassing. And he's been used, Daniel Levy. He has been used. He was used by Mr. Marinakis at Nottingham Forest to increase his stronghold at the club, to show his fans how he wouldn't have his pants pulled down by anyone. And he's been used by Steve Parish and by Ebereche Eze's agents. I've been saying it for days and days, weeks. My big fear, we will do all of the negotiating for Arsenal, just like we did with Willian, when Chelsea literally let him have a medical at Spurs, then called him up and said, we'll match the offer, come here. Emmanuel Petit has told a story. And this, I might try and even give Levy some credit here and say this might have been just before his days. But, you know, this shows how long Tottenham have been a meme. Emmanuel Petit tells a story about how he went to Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham paid for his taxi to drive to Arsenal. It's not how a big club act. And Daniel Levy has said in the last few weeks, I want us to win the Premier League and Champions League. Well, the only way you have a chance of doing that is acting like a big club, both optically, but also financially. And he's been used. He's been used, like I said, by Parish, by Eze's agents. And he's got to have a better idea of that. And if he feels that is happening, then you break off negotiations 2 weeks ago. And you say, you know, and you tell the fans, you have to. Listen, Ebereche Eze didn't want to come to Spurs. He's waiting for Arsenal. It wouldn't be an easy one. I think a lot of fans would say, we don't believe you. But if it's the truth, just go with the truth. One of the other frustrating things is we ended the Spursy tag in Bilbao. We won the Europa League. We beat Manchester United. Jamie Carragher said, Tottenham don't beat Manchester United in a European final. Well, we did. We ended the Spursy tag. And thank you, Big Ange Postecoglou, for that. But it's like ever since that day, which is less than 3 months ago, Daniel Levy has almost single-handedly been trying to reclaim Spursy for us, so that every fan can meme us and take the piss out of us and call us Spursy. And I want to ask this. He brought in Vinay Venkatesham, and Vinay Venkatesham has clearly started trying to put blocks in place to increase the communication with the fans. Where is Vinay? Where are you? You are, you know, you and Daniel Levy in your conversation when talking about red wine and blah, 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 you talked about you being now the face of the football side and Daniel Levy, you know, pulling back. And sure, listen, we have to accept, because Daniel Levy is the owner of the club, he's going to get involved in the last moments of negotiations. But Levy shouldn't be allowed to be on the phone with Steve Parish for 2 weeks. Vinay, that has to be you, because you are a better people person. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Vinay needs to come out today. He needs to come out today and say, listen, Spurs fans, there have been a lot of leaks. There's a lot of stuff that you've been told that some is true, some isn't true. Here's what's true. Here's what isn't true. Eze always wanted to go to Arsenal. We tried our best. Just tell us something, because we're in a void, and it's like a void of hell, where today is going to be the most embarrassing day of all of them. Arsenal fans just getting at us. Ebereche Eze playing his last game for Crystal Palace, saying goodbye to them in the Conference League tonight, and Arsenal fans then just getting their Eze medical tomorrow, Eze signing tomorrow. We're supposed to play Man City 12:30 on Saturday, and we've had a good start to the season, but things like this can affect the players on the pitch. They just can. It's momentum. It's morale. And then instead of communication, what we get is more leaks now, right? The latest leak is, Spurs have now turned their attention to other targets. They're exploring interest in Morgan Rogers from Aston Villa. No, they're not. No, they're not. What? They took 2 weeks to try and negotiate 60 million plus 8, which was his release clause before last Friday, by the way. There's another thing. Levy could have paid the release clause 2 weeks ago. He spent 2 weeks dick measuring and then eventually got to the number of the release clause yesterday. And that's when Arsenal just went in and say, yeah, we'll pay you 67.5 million, Steve Parish, and took him from under our noses. So Levy could have cut this off at the pass 2 weeks ago by just paying the release clause. Anyway, so now supposedly we're in for Morgan Rogers. No, we're not. No, we're not, because we're not going to pay fucking £68 million for the release clause 2 weeks ago. We're not going to go in and bid £100 million, which is what it would take to get Morgan Rogers out of Aston Villa. Morgan Rogers, who was a player who's on Tottenham's list for years, let him go to Aston Villa, and then suddenly like, oh, he's a good player at Aston Villa. Fucking, I'm sorry, I'm going to come back and seem like a boomer here, but we had a man, David Pleat, who would constantly single out players to Daniel Levy who are really talented. Dele Alli being the best example, and plenty more. And Levy is like, no, I'm going with the data scientist now. Fine. Have the data guys, right? You have the data recruitment team. I get it. You know, football, Moneyball, it's all about data now, whatever. But the reason why all the clubs are being linked with all the same players is because all of these recruitment analysts are just getting the same data, and everyone's looking for players who can, pass and move and press really high and who have good, good numbers, etc. But sometimes you need people with the eye test as well. And David Pleat was brilliant with the eye test. He probably was one who said Morgan Rogers like 3-4 years ago is going to be an amazing player. But now Spurs suddenly, because we've had our pants pulled down and are the most embarrassed club in football at the moment, suddenly now leaking to the press, well, we're having a look at Morgan Rogers. It's bollocks. No, we're not. Also, latest leak this morning, and I'll talk more about Savinho later, but Spurs are now confident that our bid for Savinho will eventually be accepted. Fuck off, Levy. Just put the fucking money down. Man City have made it clear, Pepper's made it clear that, they're trying to push up the price, but if a player wants to leave, he wants to leave. And if you genuinely think, if Thomas Frank has said to you, Savinho is exactly what we need, then make it happen today. Because even if it did happen today, and it fucking won't, but even if it did happen today, Spurs fans will still feel a bit like, yeah, but we're still having the piss taken out of us by Arsenal fans, our fucking biggest rivals, the people that we have to go into the office with at work, have them all laugh at us, as if it's bad enough they finished above us 3 years in a row, and we finished 17th last year. You think we're not hearing enough of that? We're hearing that all summer, and we're like, we don't care because we won a trophy and you haven't won a trophy. It's getting a little bit hard to pull that over them now, isn't it? Now they're like, oh, well, the biggest signing that you wanted to make, we just let you negotiate for us and then stole in at the end. It's a joke. We are a joke at the moment. We need to be utilizing the momentum that we built up from Bilbao. You've won a trophy. You're back in the Champions League. You're lucky as fuck to be back in the Champions League, by the way. And how do you push on from that? You buy a young kid from Japan called Taka. You buy Mohamed Kudus, and that's it. Arsenal have just spent £300 million. They've just bought their 7th player, an England international, from under our noses, as I've said numerous times, I'm aware. But they came second, and they spent £300 million and have bought 7 players, and we bought 2 players. How does Thomas Frank feel this morning? Come into a new club, excited, got us off to a good start, told people the players he wants, and then suddenly comes into the same situation that all those managers before him have faced with Daniel Levy. Yeah, I'll negotiate for those players, but it's got to be the deal that I need. Sometimes you just got to spend £5 million more to make sure shit like this doesn't happen. At one point yesterday, we even had a report leaked, and I think it must have been by Arsenal or an Arsenal journalist or something, which is so clearly designed to destabilize our club. It was yesterday afternoon. It was, Spurs have offered Richarlison as part of the deal for Ebereche Eze. How does Richarlison feel when he sees that on Sky Sports News yesterday? He's just scored 2 brilliant goals for us. He's fit. He's playing brilliantly. And now he, walks into the club and go, are you trying to sell me? Like, what's going on? And it's like people are laughing at us from within football as well. It's so frustrating. Another thing that really frustrates me is for years under Pochettino, we finished above Arsenal. And I know we were building the stadium and it's difficult. And I will always defend the fact that we spent £1 billion on a stadium and therefore we weren't able to buy a lot of players then. And you might say to me, but Daniel Levy said that the transfer budget was ring fenced. And I'll always say, I think he had to say that. Because otherwise, if he did come out and admitted we got no money to spend, then the vultures would have circled and we'd have lost Kane, we'd have lost Ali, we'd have lost Eriksen, we'd have lost, Danny Rose and Toby and Jan Vertonghen. But we finished above Arsenal for years under Pochettino, and we weren't able to pull away from them at that point. And now Arsenal are finishing above us, and they are burying our noses in the dirt. And part of that is because we're not run by a man who cares enough about what's happening on the pitch, who cares enough about how us as fans feel going into our offices day after day and having the piss taken out of us by Arsenal fans. And he has never, Daniel Levy, he has never looked more embarrassing than he does today. And as Spurs fans, I'm afraid to say, we have never looked as embarrassing as we are today. And those of you who are watching me and are upset with me being so negative, this is how I feel. I'm not doing this for clicks and likes. Like I said before, I've supported Daniel Levy as much as I can. I've said, be careful what you wish for. He has built the club up through infrastructure, sticking to the rules sustainably, brilliantly. He's an excellent businessman, but now is the time he has to pivot and care about what happens on the pitch. And if we have that investment, and if we're about to sign a huge sponsorship naming rights deal for the stadium, and if there is Middle Eastern investment on the table, he has to accept it. He has to say to himself, I am not the man to take us forward on the pitch, and offer it to somebody else and become the honorary president. And like he said in that interview the other day with Gary Neville, I think I'll be appreciated once I'm gone. Maybe now's the time, Daniel. Maybe now is the time to see if that's correct, because I think there's an element of truth to that. In terms of building us to the size of club to compete, yes, if we were still at White Hart Lane and we'd had no plans to upgrade the stadium, we would not be able to spend any money now in terms of PSR. So on that front, Levy, yes, you've done a great job. You have. You've elevated us to a place where we're future-proofed. You know, we're talked about as like one of the big six cartel because he built us up through infrastructure. And I will give you that credit. But days like yesterday and how Spurs fans are having to deal with today are why you are not the man to take us forward on the pitch. Go quietly. Let Vinay be the face. Go quietly. Become the honorary president. Bring in investment from elsewhere. Get a new CEO. You've done a great job, but you've taken it as far as you can. It's untenable now. It is untenable for you now. Who is above Daniel Levy? Whoever is above Daniel Levy, if it's Vivian Lewis, who was sat next to him at the game the other day, bring him into the office today and say, listen, if this was any other company in any other walk of life, I'm afraid you would be sacked today. And so I'm going to have to relieve you of your duties in terms of the football side. We want to keep you on in terms of the business side, but I'm going to put in place another CEO to run the budget of the club on the football pitch. And straight away, what you would have change if that happened at Tottenham Hotspur is the fan base would be excited. The momentum would be elevated, and Tottenham fans would be able to forget the Eze situation, the Morgan Gibbs-White situation, and we'd be able to, put that in a box with Daniel Levy, and say, he's done a great job on one side, but in terms of the football side, it wasn't for him. He won the trophy. He always said he wouldn't leave without winning a trophy. You won a trophy. Take that. Become the honorary president. You can still sit in the stadium, whatever. And then put someone else, younger, more forward-thinking, more understanding of what Tottenham Hotspur now need on the pitch going forward to be the big, to become the big club on the pitch that they are off the pitch, and put it in someone else's hands. It has to happen. In terms of trying to look for a positive out of all of this, if I'm Thomas Frank now, I pin everything that's being said about Tottenham, the Spursy tag, how everything's the same, all the abuse we're getting today, pin it on the board before the Man City game on Saturday and say, it's us against the world. I just came from a job at Brentford where it was us against the world in every single game, and I got us overachieving massively. And now it's us against the world at Tottenham. Get Christian Romero into them and say, they want us, they expect us to die a death. They expect us to lie down and die. They expect us to be memes on the pitch as well as off the pitch, but we're not going to let that happen. I'm your captain. I'm a World Cup winner. I've won every trophy I've attempted to win, basically, apart from maybe the Super Cup, I guess. And we are going to go against Man City, and we're going to put everything in and go and get a result and turn this into inspiration. And I think Thomas Frank is smart enough. He's a clever enough guy, clever enough communicator to find a positive out of this. Kind of one team against the rest, against the doubters, and going against Man City, against the big spenders. Because again, Man City, how many players have they bought since January? 10, 12? Spurs have bought 2 players this summer. And Daniel Levy, I'm sure, would say, oh, well, we also bought Tell and Danso. Don't buy people in January and take the credit for, buying people in January during the transfer window and then try and push it to use it as an excuse in the summer when you haven't spent money on everybody else. We've only bought 2 players this summer. It's the 21st of August. I think the window is on the 1st of September. Daniel Levy, Johan Lange, Vinay Venkatesham, they have 10 days maximum, 9 days or whatever it is, And they have to make this fan base happy. They have to drag it back. And they have to use this new communication that Vinay's talking about to tell us exactly what went on. Because the problem is, this is just the latest of many of these situations with Daniel Levy. And I'm going to name some names here. Rivaldo, Fernando Morientes in the early days. And more recently, Dybala, Luis Suarez, Luis Diaz. Liverpool just came in and snatched him at the end. Bruno Fernandes couldn't get it over the line. João Moutinho, oh my God, how many times? David Villa, Willian, the most embarrassing of all before yesterday. It's now been, superseded by Eze. Damiao, endless. Eden Hazard, Harry Redknapp thought it was done. Sadio Mane was at the training ground. Grealish, the deal was basically done, but Levy was trying to undercut them because he knew they were in financial disarray, Aston Villa. How many times has he done that as well? Been an opportunist, going for a player because there's a chance to rub someone who's in financial difficulty, rub their nose in the dirt to get a cheaper deal. It's disgusting. Act like a fucking big club and put in the money down so that the player the company, the club you're buying from feel like they've got a good deal as well. These are your peers, Levy. These are the people who you go to the Premier League meetings with. Stop trying to take the piss out of them because they've now turned on you, mate. They're taking the piss out of you. Marinakis, Parish. You are the laughing stock now, Daniel Levy. I'm sorry for the rant. Am I sorry for the rant? I don't know if I'm sorry for the rant, but it's lucky I was out last night when this happened. I went to watch my friend Joey do comedy. Brilliant comedian, Joey Page. Go and check him out. And thank God I was out. I had a few beers and it allowed me to come home, calm down. I did one TikTok video, managed to stay relatively calm. But I think if I'd done a YouTube live last night, as some people were asking, where's your YouTube live about it? I think it would have been even more ranty than the rant I just gave you now. That rant is my considered rant this morning. It's gone too far. I'm fed up of Spurs being the meme. I'm fed up of it. And Levy is in charge of the club. So he is in charge of what happens. Time to step down. Before I go into the other transfer news, guys, thank you so much for watching and listening wherever you are. Do give this video a like. And if you like my content, please do subscribe to the channel for daily Tottenham transfer news. Surely we have to bring players in over the next 10 days. Again, just to reference them lot down the road, 7 signings. Spurs, 1 signing, 55 million kudos. And what a signing that's been. So get some more in like that. We need players in those forward positions who can hold the ball like him. And also, I will be talking to some Tottenham content creators about this situation. I'll be doing some interviews with them. Come and find me on BigUp, which is a separate platform. All the details are in the description box below. Just come there, join my Spurred On community for interviews and live watch-alongs. I'll be doing the live watch-along to the Man City game there, 12:30 on Saturday. Okay. Other transfer news, as I mentioned earlier, Spurs now leaking that we're trying to ramp up again the interest in Savinho. Apparently, we are we have increased our bid to £69 million. Spurs to contact Man City again today for Savinho. His agents remain in the UK to manage the talks between the clubs. Romano said last night, Spurs are not giving up on Savinho. They're going to try again despite resistance from Manchester City. The Manchester Evening News said yesterday, City will sell pretty much any player in their squad and Savinho is no exception. If the right offer arrives and the player wants to take it, the deal happens. So the right offer, if £69 million is the right offer, good. But Daniel Levy, you know what they want, so just fucking give it to them. If Thomas Frank says to you, here's the player who will elevate us, just do it. For once, just do it. Don't let this go on another 10 days. Don't let your instinct of we'll get a better deal if we let it run down. Someone else will come in or he'll sign a new deal and we'll have it all over again. Reports that we've reached personal terms agreement with Savinho. Well, we did that with Eze, didn't we? And then here come the rumors that started coming out after the Eze stuff last night that just made Spurs fans even more angry. Romano said this, Tyler Dibbling is a name that is being mentioned internally at Tottenham. Everton leading the race, but Spurs have made calls. And I saw someone on social media say, when you're fighting with Everton to get players in, you know where you stand. And that's kind of true. I've been saying it for weeks. Spurs and Newcastle to some degree having to wait, and Villa having to wait to see who the big clubs want, let them do their business, and then kind of fight for the scraps. Well, we kind of did that. Eze was still available. And so Daniel Levy felt, we're on our own here. I can get a good deal. And sorry to bang on about it even more. It still doesn't work for you. So now scrapping over Tyler Dibbling. Romano also said Spurs made contact for Xavi Simons a few days ago, but he has his heart set on Chelsea. So it's not going to happen. He wants to go to Chelsea. Chelsea are looking to sell more players before they buy in Xavi Simons. Don't get involved in it. Romano said Spurs see Morgan Rogers as a dream target, but people in the industry say this deal is virtually impossible. It is impossible unless, Daniel Levy, you put £100 million down so Aston Villa can't refuse it. That's what Chelsea would do, but Daniel Levy's not going to do that. So, of course, it's impossible. Let's forget about it. Tottenham have been linked with a move once again for a player who's been on a list for a long time, Takefusa Kubo from Real Sociedad. But they face competition from Atletico and PSG. Well, PSG are in for him. You're not going to get him, so move on. We attempted to sign him last summer and remain keen on him. He has a €60 million release clause in his contract. Well, if he has a £60 million release clause, put £60 million down and find out whether he wants to come to the club or not. Pretty simple. I know some people will say, oh, fans think it's like Football Manager. Well, if there are release clauses in the contract and you actually hit the terms of the release clause and don't allow yourself to be bullied by a Greek mafioso like Marinakis, then it is simple. In every single previous transfer that's ever been done in football where there's a release clause, you pay the release clause and you get to talk to the player. So find out whether Kubo wants to come to the club, and if he does, put the release clause down and get him. Spurs remain keen to sign Mark Casado. We made an approach for the midfielder earlier this summer. The player wanted to remain at Barcelona. Spurs are still in the picture. Should he change his mind? I get it. Fabio Paratici was always the man who had 11 or 12 or 15 plates spinning. So if one doesn't come off, you go to the next one. Give the keys to Fabio Paratici at this point, by the way. Listen, I'm not going to get on Johan Langer's back because I don't know officially, how much he does or doesn't do or whatever. But give the keys to Paratici because he is a man who can get deals done. Let Paratici and Vinay lead it. And then finally, according to The Independent, Tottenham have identified Monaco's Maguez Akliouche as a new target due to the lofty asking price for Man City Savinho. Look, Akliouche, I've talked about him for a few days, looks like a great player. He does. And if Spurs were to go bang and get in Akliouche and Savinho today, maybe as Spurs fans, we could move on a little bit and say, okay, fine. We got, Eze took the piss out of us and Arsenal did exactly what I feared they'd do, which is let us do all the negotiating and then steal him. But that's not going to happen. That still Levy is going to be looking for the best deal, and it's just going to be a horrible few days for Spurs. And I hope I'm wrong, but I fear, Saturday morning, the narrative will be so painted by BT Sports, TNT Sports, whoever they are today. Spurs cannot gain on the, build on the momentum of Bilbao, and now they've got Man City away, and Man City score an early goal, and then we lose 4 or 5, and pressure starts going on Thomas Frank, even though it's been a good start. So if I'm Thomas Frank, like I said, put it on the board, use it, and go to Man City and find a way to get a great result, and then we can shut everyone up again. All right, guys, apologies for the rant, but just a horrible day. Please do give this video a like on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and listen. Try and enjoy your Thursday somehow, but it's horrible. Come on, you Spurs.